January 1st, 2017. I'm here at Casa de Scovill. I'm in my tech room and we're just starting to get together some of the stuff for the upcoming tour. This is really the first day of, of actual prep. You know, a lot of the dates have been announced now, and it's now time to start doing some preparation and to get some things together. Technically, we've got some pretty significant changes coming for the 2017 tour. We're going to obviously switch over to venue S6Ls at front of house and monitors, so that's going to require some rebuilding of racks, some rethinking of the system for sure. We're going to move away from D shows, which we've had on the tour for many, many years now, and going to do. We're going to move to a gain sharing model for S6L, etc. So again, just a lot to get into place. We're probably about, I don't know, maybe 4 weeks or so away from our first rehearsal, where we're going to rehearse for the Music Cares events, things like that. So I figure I'd just take you around, just give you a quick insight into what we're kind of putting together here. Like I said, I'm in my tech room here. Behind me here, you see this is all the servers and everything I have in my house. As a matter of fact, let me just switch the camera around here. And as we come around here, this is a couple of racks that I got in place just for prep. This is an S6L rack, a Waves sound grid server, and a stage rack. This is all part of a system that you guys might have seen me use online to be able to do some of the demos and the videos, etc. Here's a whole slew of hard drives that I have at my disposal. This is, you know, years worth of petty events that we've recorded over time, and I'm going to use those in preparation to get ready for the tour. So I'll pull up some of that audio. Even though it's been done at 48K, I'll convert it all to 96K audio and use that to do some of my show file prep, etc. Okay, stopping by my warehouse today, just picking up some gear, getting ready for some things to assemble. Got to get my racks over to the house so we can start pulling those together. A few other cases for some ancillary gear, etc. So, you know, that's all going to go into Sound Image here before too long and get ready. So here we are at warehouse day. And here are a couple of the racks that I'm going to be using on the tour. I have a couple of big double wides that I take on tour with me. Obviously, I've stripped those completely down for this tour. I did this morning to get these ready to ship out because these will be really completely revisioned for the tour. Primarily because we're changing the console, but we're also changing a lot of the infrastructure on the tour as well. The rack you see here is actually my recording rack. We'll move over to all new Mac Pros here. We're going to use Mac Pros with some Sonnet expansion chassis and be able to do AVB record, 128 track AVB record, along with MADI redundancy. So we'll have a MADI 128 track redundant record happening off of the gain shared racks as well. This is the main front of house rack. We'll have some things kind of hang over from the previous tour. You know, the KVM, I got a DVI KVM there I use there, as well as those UPSs. I got a couple of UPSs that I have in play. The E6 engine will be in here. I'll also have an E3 engine in here as well, doing some surround recording and all my 2-track recording back through the E3. And then we'll also have probably about a half dozen or so Mac Minis in here doing various jobs on the tour, etc. So those are the main 2 racks. And if we get around, get a little look around the back here, we can do that. So like I said, this has all been kind of stripped out and is going to get redone in Sound Image. We're going to send this into Sound Image. It probably will leave today and head on in there for some overhaul and to get ready for the tour. So we'll just keep track of this as it goes on. I'll make this a little video diary of the prep that goes on for the tour, and we'll take it from there. Okay, we're a couple of weeks out from starting rehearsals for the Music Cares event and the upcoming performance at the. We're about, I'm going to say second week of January here. And obviously there's a lot of preparation work that goes into getting ready for a big tour like this. Lots of paperwork development on my end. I have lots of planning to do in terms of the technology we're going to use, how it's all going to be interfaced, the particulars of what pieces we're going to use, how they're going to be used in what way. And I communicate a lot of that via drawings and via documents with the other crew members that are currently located away from here. I'm at my office in Scottsdale, my home office in Scottsdale. And the crew members, the primary crew members that I'm going to be working with are in San Diego right now at a company called Sound Image. Those are the guys that handle all the sound duties or provide all the sound technology for the tour. As you saw in that previous clip, a lot of this comes from my own home. I have a lot of my own gear that I take with me on tour. And a lot of that gets prepped in San Diego, even though it resides here in Scottsdale. So I've sent off the first rack. They're working on that now. And part of that process is telling them how I want it set up and how I want it laid out and wired up. So to do that, I actually we use an online service, an online app called Evernote. I've been using Evernote for 4 or 5 tours now. It's been out for quite a while, been in development. I'm going to give you a little quick run through, just give you a glimpse of some of the prep work that's done here. Okay, so if you take a look at the screen now, you're probably up on, I'm guessing you're going to be up on the screen here, or see it up on the screen. You can see that I have a 2017 tour folder set up, and this is kind of the beginning of the work. And you can see, for instance, I've got a rack layouts drawing that I've done here, and this is just done in simple drawing form. There's nothing really super technical about this. This is just giving them an idea of how I want things laid out in the rack, the gear in what order, etc. And then with signal flow diagrams, etc., we'll start talking about how we want to get it all wired up. So I do that in Evernote. So let's jump over to Evernote here. I'll give you an idea of what that's all about. Again, this is kind of a cloud service. So the beauty of this is that once we start using this as a repository for all these documents, any of the crew members on the tour, none the least of which Vic Wagner, who will be my A2 on this particular tour, my systems guy on this tour, they can pull this up at any time during the day. They can get it on their phones or iPads, whatever, and use this as reference if they need to work on a rack, they need to troubleshoot something, want to know where a particular signal is going within these massive PA systems. All they got to do is pull up Evernote, log in on their phone, and they have access to all of these documents. So as you can see on the screen, this goes all the way back to 2010 for me with Tom Petty. We've been doing, this is a master file that I keep for Tom Petty. And the 2017 stack is made up of these other folders, and you can see I got all kinds of, just housekeeping here, where we can keep track of specific events, specific purchases, rack designs, even repairs, rigging references. I'll take you through a couple of these just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. So, for instance, we're getting ready for the Music Cares event. This shows some of the layout, etc., for the Music Cares event in terms of the stage, all the musicians where they're going to be playing. This is a master input list for all of the inputs that are going to happen on the show. There's the Tom Petty stage plot. This is our input list. These are all the inputs that we're going to be bringing and providing to the event. Right, so that's just one folder here, all of the data that's being kept in place for that. If we want to get into rack design, this is all the particular panels and gear on the racks that are being built right now in San Diego. Here's that rack drawing I showed you, and we are always going to be working on latest version numbers here. So these are previous revisions of those rack designs. You can kind of see the build out as it goes along. What else we got here? Let's go to, here's a rigging reference. This is something I'm putting together for some delay systems and some bigger PA system designs for a couple of the stadium shows that we're going to do this year. Signal flow, here's a good one. So this is all the different signal flow locations throughout the system. So this is a redundancy system that I'm building and designing in for the console so that we can have some safety in terms of just console performance. If we were to have an incident with one console, we have a way of switching immediately over to a second console. This is just more signal flow right at the front of house position. This is our complete network design of all of our engines and consoles working together. I have a number of computers out there at the front of house position. As you can see, I got provision for 8 computers through a KVM, plus a couple of others, meaning the console and an effects processing server here by Waves. I also have a complete local and wide area network built into this entire system, so we can file share between members of the, guys in the crew on stage, the monitor position, my position. If we want to share and drop files between any of the computers, we can do that. As you guys saw this year, and this is part of it, on Mudcrutch, I did a video blog, a regular video blog. I'm going to do that here as well. So I'm setting up where I can capture the audio and do some other kind of screen capture-y kind of stuff there. This is the actual PA system drive. This is all the lines that do all of our driver, the main and auxiliary PAs. This is actually for Scott Thurston's keyboard rig. I did some signal flow designs for him. So you can see it's all kinds of stuff that is available here. We can even keep track of what else we got in here. Just general to-do list. And again, guys can check in on this stuff just by logging in on their phones or their computers on days off, whatever. A lot of times I'll even keep a running to-do list. If I've got things that happen during a show that I want to make sure and check the next day, I'll just populate it up on Evernote. Crew gets in the morning, gets on Evernote, checks my notes, and off we go. So, just trying to keep it really organized, keep the communication flow happening out there. Even though we're all in a kind of a tight-knit space out there, all working together, communication still is the most important piece of it, to stay on top of it with everybody. Okay, so that's just a couple things I thought you might enjoy seeing some of the preparation that takes place. I'm actually flying to San Diego tonight. I'm going in for some Avid work tomorrow at NAMM. I'm going to do a couple of presentations, one on virtual sound check tomorrow, and that whole workflow and how that came about and how we use it today. And then I'll be in San Diego the following 2 days doing some speaker system evaluations for our near field speakers, our front field speakers for the people that sit down close. We're going to try a new approach on that this year. And I'll give you some insight on that tomorrow. We'll All right, today we are in San Diego, actually out in Escondido at our sound company headquarters. This is the headquarters of Sound Image. And we're going to be doing some testing today. I'm going to do some testing of some different types of speakers and some different speaker setups that we use in the concert system for an area that we call the front fill. This is the speakers that are down very close to the stage, and they kind of support the audio that's coming off the stage, meaning the guitar amps and the drums and everything else. I'll make the right turn here. And I'm always kind of looking for different ways to do that, try to improve that audio down there. I mean, if you guys, guys that do this kind of work in the business understand this, but that place in the arena is actually a very, very difficult place to make sound really good. And it's just because all the amplifiers and everything coming off the stage, it's hard to create balance down there with the vocal and everything that's going on in that kind of near field. As we get out far from the PA, that kind of gets easier to do. We can actually create a full mix, etc. down there. But in those front fill situations, in that area down close, it's actually really hard to make that to sound really good. And one of the challenges you have down there is that, you have to fight this balance all the time of getting the speakers that are close to the stage high enough where they can get over the people's heads and actually cover some of the very front rows of the people sitting there versus blocking their sight lines to the band. So it actually puts a lot of demands on the type of speaker system you choose down there. It can't be anything that's really big, otherwise it blocks sight lines. You don't want anything that's going to be blaringly loud down there. So we've been testing all kinds of stuff today, and we actually started a little bit yesterday, assembling some of it yesterday and testing it. And so I think we've kind of settled on what we want to use. So we get in here where you can have a look at it a little bit and see what we're doing here. Okay. All right, we're back in the back warehouse area here. Kind of got a little station set up where we can do some of our testing. We kind of narrowed the field down yesterday. We had quite a few different styles of speakers and different setups yesterday that we've kind of, through some listening and some evaluation and some analysis, have kind of narrowed down to just a couple of different styles. As you can see here, these are, we're going to settle on a speaker on a stick type of thing. We've got a new system here from EAW called Redline, and another series here called K-Array. And we're actually going to marry a little these two things together. We're going to kind of take the best of both worlds here. Here's the auto subwoofers, which we're going to use. So we're actually going to combine the K-Array coax as we sit right now with a little bit of these computer-controlled subwoofers, which are, we have great directivity and great control with this subwoofer package. So we're actually looking really forward to trying this on the tour. So, you know, if you're sitting in front of one of these at one of the shows, I hope it sounds really good for you down there. And that's the goal. We try very hard to make those seats sound really good when you're sitting down close to the stage. So, you know, let us know how it goes. Right, Bernie? Today we're going to start prepping show file, and for any of you guys that have been following me for a while on the Petty thing, you know that we have been on Avid Venue D-Show really since it first launched in 2005. We've been on that console for a long time, really for the entire stretch throughout those years with Petty up until this year. And we're going to make the transition to S6L this year. Pretty excited about it. It's going to be really cool. Excited about some of the improvements in just workflow and, you know, all the capabilities of the S6L. I think it's going to play really, really well into what I'm doing with Petty. So one of the things we get to take advantage of, obviously, in that scenario is the ability to transfer show files, to use show files on the legacy consoles right up into the new consoles. So I'm gonna show you that process kind of from the ground up today. You know, what's going to happen here is I'm going to go to my D-Show system that is here on site at my house. I'm going to offload probably my very last show that I did on that console and move it onto a USB key, bring it in here to the office. You can kind of see the S6L in behind me here. We're going to load that show file on the S6L and just kind of see how it all translates, see what comes up. And then from that point on, I'll start building it and kind of massaging it for the new tour and get things ready on that new show file. And we'll check back in on that throughout the course of the tour. Certainly once I get into rehearsals, you'll get another look at it, and we'll keep checking in on it. I'll show you everything I'm doing on that console over the course of the tour and however many episodes of this video blog that we put together. Okay, so let's get it started. I'm going to head out. I have the D-Show in a trailer that I actually use for a remote recording rig here locally. So I'll take you out there. We'll get hooked up and get it all turned on and kind of see how things are going there, and we'll offload that show file. We'll actually examine it first and offload it, and then come in here and load it and see what happens. Okay? All right, so check back with you in just a couple seconds. Bye-bye. This is a D-Show console that I have sitting here, and this is the one I have at my office, obviously. And I've probably got, honestly, every show file I've ever built on D-Show loaded on this console, so I could go in and examine it or pull things from it if I need to do it. So the idea here is I'm going to go to the 2014 tour that we did, the last time I worked with Tom with the Heartbreakers, and we're going to load up the last show file that we created on that tour, and then I'm going to transfer it to USB key, take it in and load it on S6L so we can get going on that system and do all the enhancements that we want to do with the new architecture. Okay. So the first thing we'll do here is actually load that show file. So I'll pull this screen up on the screen for you to kind of see, so we can see what's going on there. So if you notice, I've kind of navigated right to it. This is 2014 Tom Petty Tour is the folder you see on the left. And then what we want to do is go to the very last show that we used the console on. I'm going to have that be my starting place. So as you can see, the last show that we did was at the Forum on, looks like October 11th. So we're just going to load that show file. Now I will tell you, I've gone in and just disabled all the plugins. Okay, I mean the plugins that I have loaded in this show file are going to come over with me, but just to make the show file load a little quicker, I've just disabled them to make it happen in the essence of saving some time. Okay, so that show file is loaded now. So I'm going to go over and transfer it real quick. I've got my USB key in. You can see it. It's this Lexar up here with a venue show file on it. or a show folder on it. I'm going to go to the show that we just loaded, which is all the way down here, and transfer it over. Alright, so just transfer that over. And you can see it shows up on the key there. Now it's important to note, now if you've got lots of preset folders, which I do, and you want to bring them over as well, you can do them individually just by hitting preset folders here and just highlighting the folder you want to bring over. You can see I got a lot of drums, guitars, and key preset folders here. You might have recall safe grids that you want to bring over, etc. If you're only going to bring over the show file, you want to make sure and bring over those grids and those preset folders as well. Okay, so if you're going to go at the show file level, make sure and bring your presets with you as well. The other way to get around that, obviously, is just to go up to console and reload, or transfer over the entire console. But like I said, I've got hundreds of show files on here. I don't really want to sit here and wait for all of those to come across, so I'm just going to take the show file over. Okay, so let's go examine this show file a little bit, just to set some sort of expectation on what we're going to see on the S6L. So as you can see here, if we look, I'm on the first layer of 24 faders here. This is the A bank. For me in that bank, I started with keyboards on my top layer. I had lots of different, kind of keyboard channels in this first set, some acoustics. If we go down to the B layer here, it was more about guitars, etc. It's also important to note here, I'll move over to the effects returns here. I do have some effects returns here. Remember, in S6L there's no sense of effects returns, there's just stereo channels. So we're going to have these effects returns come in as stereo channels on S6L when we load it there. If I go down to the next sets, you can kind of see the next set of 24 is more guitar stuff. Some of the drum channels start to kick in here. So if I were to bank here, you could see that I have independent banking and can go down through all of these differently. Now that is really kind of demonstrated how we did this in the patch bay, right? If I go to inputs in patch bay and we take a look at how these different inputs are patched, you can see that the patch is really scattered, right? It's really scrambled in terms of how it's patched in. It's kind of all over the shop. It's certainly not one for one because we re-scrambled. And in S6L we're going to get to kind of take great advantage of that, because we can set up lots of user-defined layers. We can set up all of our own layers and actually keep a one-for-one patch in the patch bay. I'll demonstrate that once we get in there. It's really, really useful now. Outputs, you can kind of see here I use lots of different outputs on the system itself. Actually, let me go to the outputs page here and we can demonstrate it here. Remember, we only had a very small amount of auxes on D show when it was out, and I just used 8 auxes. I was able to kind of make that show work, and most shows work on 8 auxes, even though we got a lot more at our disposal now. The PQ buses were all my stereo matrices. That was my drives for the PA system and some of my effects processing. Matrices were used primarily for PA processing as well, or PA drive as well as a lot of other effects processing. And then of course subgroups. All of my subgroups were used. I use those to drive all of my, or all audio passed through an audio subgroup at some point. And then of course VCAs, we used up all the 8 VCAs there in the show, depending on how I was doing it. Okay, so all of those are going to come right across into our show file on S6L, and we're going to be able to use all of that stuff. Let's go to snapshots. We can take a look there. A lot of interesting stuff going on there. As you can imagine, I have lots of snapshots built up over time working with Tom over the years, including a lot of what we would consider momentary snapshots now. Things where I'm setting propagation time or measuring propagation time of PA to audience microphones. What else kind of things we're doing here? Some phase checks where I'm doing some manual delay compensations. I have snapshots to help me do this, which I'm actually doing in a much more extravagant fashion on S6L now. So all of these snapshots are going to come right across as well. Let's see, what else do we want to touch on here? Oh, events is a great one. We could go to events, which is actually here. So as you can see, I have lots of events that were built on this show file. This is one of the more powerful things on this show file translation that'll happen, is all of these events will come with me as well. I won't have to rebuild all of these events, as you can see here. Lots of them like tap tempo and propagate or update. All of these things. A lot of these this solo and panning work that I have done in events on the show files. Some of the mono and stereo bounces for the solos. Even some of the guitar plug-in patches are done with events. So all of this is going to come right across. All right, so really cool stuff. All right, so we got that transferred to the key. Let's head on into the SXL and load it up and see what happens. All right, we'll see you inside. All right, we're back at the SXL. So we're going to take our show file that we moved onto USB key from the D-Show system and just bring it right in on S6L. I'm going to plug this right into the USB port right on the front. And then we're going to go to the transfer page. I'll go ahead and pull up the screen, the menu screen on the video so you can see it here again. So we're going to, here's our file that we come in from the USB key with. This is my Lexar key, Tom Petty 2014 tour folder, and this is the show file we're going to move across. I've already prepared a file for it here on S6L called 2017 preparation. So we're going to make sure that's open, go down to the shows level and highlight the file and transfer it over. So here we go, and just like that it's transferred into the system and ready to load now. So we're going to go to the load tab of the filing section of the console. We're going to go to that folder that was 2017 preparation, and here is our show file, and we're going to go ahead and load that. I'm just going to highlight it and get ready to load it. Now notice in this right hand window it's telling you what kind of system that it came from, right? All of the stuff in red is just telling you this was not built on an S6L system, this was built on something else. Matter of fact, it's telling you it was built on an FOH rack with 5 mix engines, 96 channels, 16 effects returns, and on and on and on down through the show file. It's also telling you it was created with an earlier version of the software, really just to keep you on board with what you're doing. So we understand all that. We're going to go ahead and hit the load file, or load button. I'm going to go ahead and load it. And we're going to go through a series of prompts here that's going to help us understand what the translation process is for this show file. So notice the first one that we get here has to do with this system that we're sitting in front of. The S6L system does not support the patches from the local I/O used in the previous show file. All right, so that is referring to some of the insert patching and some of the other things that we had in that FOH rack. Remember, we don't have an FOH rack here per se, we just have the control surface. So what it's saying is that those patches aren't supported, you're going to have to recreate them. Notice that we also get the option though to keep that information if we want, and that's for if we were ever wanted to take this show file back to one of those legacy systems and use it, that information would be there ready for us to use. We wouldn't have to recreate it there, it would already be there. All right. In my situation, I'm probably not going to go back to D-Show anytime soon with Tom Petty, especially on these show files, so I'm just going to go ahead and clear that information. I don't think I'm going to need it. If I did, it would be easily rebuilt. The next prompt that we get is going to be regarding some of the insert points on the output section. S6L currently does not support post-fader insert patching on outputs. I wasn't really using any on that D-Show file anyway, so it's just alerting me to the idea that those post-insert or post-fader insert patches would not be in this show file, so that's okay. For you guys that followed along with us in 2014, if you remember, we did a big MADI distributed I/O system there, where we had lots of MADI inputs created and then distributed to the FOH and the monitor systems. It's just telling me that some of those patches are not going to be supported here either. We're going to want to make sure and recreate those if we need them. These are all okay. I don't think these are going to impact us in any negative way here, so I'm just going to okay out of them. All right, so we've loaded the show file now. That's it. Let's go have a look at what we've got. Obviously, this is all of the inputs that came in from the other show file. They've all defaulted to the green color now. That's the default color for inputs on S6L. And if you'll notice, if we go right out here to around, I don't know, somewhere in the 90s here, that's probably the last input that we would have created on D-Show, which would have been a cowbell channel. And from there, we move right into our effects return. So you can see that this is a keyboard space. Some of these other particular inputs are the effects returns. We got those coming in right there now. So let's see if I can find those here. Whoops, probably back here. Yeah, here we go. So here are those effects returns. Now they've just come in as stereo channels, just like we would expect them to see. And now we can move them and put them on any bank we want to set them up as effects returns. We could integrate them within the inputs if we want to do that now. We couldn't do that previously in D-Show. We can integrate those within the input processing channels. If we go to outputs, notice obviously we have a lot more auxiliaries available to us now, but all of our auxes have come across, whether they were mono or stereo. The stereo auxes that we've had in the past have now moved to one fader, etc. VCAs, there's our 8 VCAs that we had in the D-Show system, but now we have an additional 24 VCAs at our disposal there. Matrices, all of my matrices have come across. What shows up interestingly enough here first is the mono matrices show up first, followed by the stereo matrices. But again, we'll be able to move those around as needed. As a matter of fact, in the coming version of software, which is 5.4, I'm currently sitting on 5.3 here, we'll be able to drag and drop outputs in that section as well. So that'll be a welcome change in 5.4. All right, so you can see this stuff has come right across as it was in the other show file. It's really, really handy. Snapshots, if we go to snapshots and take a look at what's happening there, all of those snapshots have come right across, including all of these I call them utility snapshots, which are not really show-based, but they're to do things that I need them to do within the context of a daily setup. This is repatching some inserts. This is some other show files that I do for delay compensation, etc., setting up delay compensation. All those have come across great. Probably going to be able to use those just fine as they were. If we go to the patch bay, something to take note of here that's kind of cool is, notice, in D-Show systems, once we were patched one for one, and then we started moving channels around to create the A, B, C, and D banks in the layouts that we wanted, obviously all the patching became scrambled. It was a very scrambled patch with regard to where things were patched in the grid. Nice thing about S6L is we'll be able to go normalize that patch now. We'll be able to go make it one for one in our input layers and then use user-defined layers to create all those customizable banks and layouts. All right, so that'll be very handy to do. Plugins, as I mentioned, even though I have plugins disabled right here, I don't have either of my iLocks with me. They're actually on other systems right now being used. But all of my plugins have come across. Some of these I'll be able to use. Some of them I will not be able to use. I'll have to recreate. But the vast majority of them are going to come through and allow me to use them. Things like Decapitator, which I made great use of on the 2014 tour, will not be available in this show file. Soundtoys hasn't got their AAX DSP complement available yet, so I'll have to find another use for that. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to do it very easily with at least what I was doing there with the Avid Pro limiter. That's going to work great in that situation, I got a feeling. Other things that might be missing here that we won't have, I don't believe the Tonelux Tilt is available for us yet. Eventide reverbs, much to my chagrin, will not be available in AX DSP, so I'll have to find substitutes for those. But the vast majority of them are going to come across, as you can see here. We even have an additional rack slot available to us now, so we can even expand this out even farther. It's going to be really great. Media page, if we take a look at all the events, all those events came through just fine. They'll work and just fine here. As you guys may or may not know, in 5.4 we'll have a very extensive upgrade to the events page. I'm really looking forward to this. It's really going to free up a lot of things. There's going to be a few things come through in that events list enhancement that we've been waiting for honestly for years in Venue. I'm really excited about those to come through. And as you know, I'm gonna keep you updated on this build as it happens. Right now I got to get this show file built and ready to go for the Music Cares events that come up in a couple of weeks. So I'll keep you abreast of this. We'll have these Venue sections available in each one of the video blogs so you can stay up on what we're doing. All right, it's about it's about 4:30 in the morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I just felt like getting up and doing a little work on the show file this morning, so got to kind of get things ready for Music Cares. We load in a few days, so need to get in and touch up my show file a little bit and get things ready for my friend Vic Wagner to do some line checking. So that's the goal this morning. So here we go. All right, so I'm just heading out to the garage to get the last shipment ready to go. We're getting close. We got Music Cares event rehearsals coming up here very soon, so the last little bits and bobs need to go in to get us ready to go. We'll start rehearsals here in just a few days, so this is the last couple of cases that will leave the house here, and then we'll reassemble it all in Burbank or someplace, wherever we're going to do rehearsals. I haven't even looked at where we're going. So that's it from here. We'll check back in at our next little stop in Burbank. All right, we'll see you later. Bye-bye. Here at the LA Convention Center, here right down next to LA Live and the Staples Center in Los Angeles. Here for the Music Cares event for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. As some of you probably know, that Tom was voted as Music Cares Man of the Year this year, so really great honor. I mean, it's a very big deal to get voted that. It's a very cool thing, and it is going to be a star-studded, action-packed few days for us here. I'll try to give you guys some insight into the production. I'll get you in and get some video footage of what's going on audio-wise, etc., and tell you what we're doing. We're going to take full advantage of S6L today and over the next couple of days. I'll try to give you in on all the details and let you know what's happening. Just finished quite a few days of rehearsals in and around Los Angeles. We were in Burbank for a little bit. For doing some of the band rehearsals and having some of the guests come in and do some rehearsing with us. So again, I'll try to give you some insight on that once we get into the building. All right, we'll see you guys in a little bit. Bye-bye. All right, we're here at the Music Cares event at the Los Angeles Convention Center. We're just in load-in today. We're a couple of days away from the event. Obviously a lot of activity today, a lot going on here. This is just going to be a monster show. So I'll try to give you some of the sights and sounds here as we kind of go through these couple of days. All right, we're about an hour away from kickoff here at the Music Cares event for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, a tribute to Tom Petty. It's a pretty long couple of days here, a lot of stuff to get together, just an unbelievable assembly of musicians here for this event. So it is going to be a wild ride here for a few hours. Luckily, I got my own console for this. Nice being the star of the show. You know, we kind of get to have our own console here and kind of live in our own little world. So excited about that, excited to mix it. We're going to have a few guests sit in with Tom tonight in his portion of the set, which we do right at the very end. We're going to do about 4 or 5 songs. So big event here, big, long, hairy event. It's going to be really something. We'll see you guys later. Talk to you. Bye-bye.
But I don't know what about. But it works out. California's been good to me. Hope it don't fall into the sea. Sometimes you got to trust yourself. It ain't like.
All right, we're just into tour prep here. We're just starting to get ready to start into rehearsals. We got about 1 week here in Van Nuys. We're at Tom's little warehouse facility here where we do a lot of recording, a lot of rehearsing, etc. So we're going to be set up here for a few days, and then we'll move out into another location where we can actually get to a full stage size, and then we'll move into yet another location once we get to full production stage, etc. But for here, we're just kind of doing band rehearsals, etc. I'm kind of in the next room, as you can see here in the warehouse, and I'll be just listening in and working on mixes, getting sounds together, doing some recording, doing some playback as always, working on mic placements, working on instrument choices, you name it. So, good few days here. It'd be a nice, relaxed 3 or 4 days here for us to get going. And so it begins already, right? All right, we'll see you guys. See you later. Bye-bye.
This time we better hit the road. I got work later on.
How's it going, Vic? Give us an update.
Well, we've all at this point we've put it all together, we've cabled it, and now we've tested all the ones and zeros and the interconnects, and we kind of know what we need to improve on, but you know the design's kind of coming to fruition, and that's a big step because I'm feeling good. I'm not stressed. I don't have my head buried in the rack, you know, fixing something or, you know. So we're getting to a point where we can see how well we can put it on a truck and bounce it down the road for a little.
Well, I'll say it looks awesome, man. I mean, I'm thrilled with the rig you put together here. So
thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really something. So excited to get out and use it. Excited for you guys to get out and see it. We'll see you guys later. Bye bye.
Skies, nobody's been around. Sundown, blue eyes, I kinda like this party town. And California has treated me good. I pray to God that the hills don't fall. Sometimes you got to trust yourself.
So we're just having our first day at Sony Studios on the lot here in our production rehearsal area, having our first listen to the PA and to our ground fill system, the one we spent a lot of time working on at Sound Image. If you guys remember that footage, we were doing some big checks and some big evaluations to figure out what we were going to use, and we've got it in play here, and as right now, we're just thrilled with the results of it. It's just going to sound so good down front for these shows, I got a feeling. So very excited about that. We got the auto subwoofers in play for the first time this year, and they were integrated into our front fill. I'll give you guys a detailed look of that once we get on tour. I got a lot of chapters planned for the video blogs, so we'll spend a little bit each day on segments of the system and what we're doing out here. But we're pretty excited right now. That's going to it's sounding really good here right now. It's certainly in that front fill zone. It's as good as I've ever had it. So I'm excited to get some feedback from some fans down there. All right. Well, I'm going to head back over to Showbiz today. We're for our last day over there. I got some final touch-ups to do on mixes and stuff before we move into this venue and get real with the PA and with the band in the same room. All right, so it's Friday here. We're just going to wrap up the week. I'm going to take the weekend off, come back on Monday. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Skies, nobody's been around. Sundown, blue eyes, kinda like this party town. And California has treated
day. We're actually just into our last day of full production rehearsals here on the Sony lot. We pick these big stages so we can get the all the stage and PA and lighting, everything in that we would, in some sort of fashion that we would be using on the tour. So we've been here rehearsing for about 4 or 5 days. It's a pretty compressed schedule for a tour this size, especially with Tom. You know, we've kind of compressed a lot of time, or I mean a lot of energy and a lot of effort into a few days here at Sony, but it's going pretty well. We've had a few technical hurdles to get over and you know, just a few things, normal things really for production rehearsals. But so we're gonna, like I said, this is our last day, and we're gonna pack it all up and head home for a few days, and then we're off to Oklahoma City for the first show, and I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's gonna go pretty good. The set list that Tom and the guys have put together is pretty dang good, so excited to get out on the road and mix it up. So we'll see you guys out there. Please try to make it to one of the sound check events if you can do it. If not, just follow us on this video blog. You'll probably get more information over the course of the tour on this video blog than you get on anything. So enjoy these. I hope you enjoy these things. We'll see you guys later. We'll see you in Oklahoma City. Bye-bye.
Time to move on, it's time to get going. What lies ahead I have no way of knowing. But under my feet, baby, grass is growing. It's time to move on, time to get going.
All right, that's a wrap. I am hoofing it, trying to make it to the airport to catch my flight back to Phoenix tonight. Band just finished the set. Guys are packing up, getting ready for Dallas, and we are going to be on our way. Actually, Oklahoma City. What am I saying? Oh, we'll see you guys there. Looking forward to this tour. Going to be a lot of fun. We'll see you guys. Bye bye.
It's time to move on, time to get going. What lies ahead I have no way of knowing. But under my feet, baby, grass is growing. It's time to move